So I'm coming in hot on a topic that plagues me, and I tweet about this quite a bit, and I post on LinkedIn about this, and topic that came up in a call just recently. Um, Felt so compelled to record something that I'm using all of the built-in cameras and microphones in my shiny new computer, as opposed to waiting until I have all the dongles I need to connect my microphone and whatever properly. But what I want to say is this: there is an instinct in client services, if you're on the client side, to race to deliver bad news as soon as possible in person. I think that this is, based on some traditional, very kind of according to Hoyle, best practices about this. Like when you have bad news, don't sit on it, deliver it right away. It's the professional thing to do, to look someone in the eye and deliver the bad news and kind of take it on the chin and be a grown up about it and give them the straight story and yada, yada, yada. And I agree with all of that most of the time. I think where I get cranky about this is when all of that behavior is not measured against some human emotional intelligence. And you need to ask yourself, am I about to give this bad news to somebody on a Friday at 5 o'clock, because that's when this decision was made, rather than on a Monday at 9 o'clock? In my estimation, and this is just one person's opinion, I would rather, on the receiving end of this information, get the bad news first thing Monday morning. And if it's going to be a gray cloud, let it be a gray cloud at work on Monday. What I don't want it to be is a gray cloud I take into the weekend and have lots of free time to dwell on it and sit on it and make peace with it and have this gray cloud sit over my daughter's dance recital or my son's soccer game or whatever it is I'm doing in my real life. In my mind, personally, again, this is just one person's opinion. In my mind, I would rather someone say to themselves, I know this is going to be bad news. It's probably going to be a little bit of a dent in this person's Thanksgiving or weekend or whatever if I give it to them now. It's too close to that event where this can't help but be a gray cloud that's going to sit over that event. What I'm going to do instead is not lose track of them, write this down as a to-do, exert some self-control and not tell them right now so I can knock that to-do list off my list. I'm going to wait until the next business day after the holiday or the weekend or whatever, and I'm going to email them with this bad news, and I'm going to offer a call. I'm going to say, hey, so-and-so, sorry to start your week off with some bad news. Sounds like we're going to be going in another direction, or the product's not going to move forward, whatever it is. I wanted to let you know as soon as possible, but decided to wait until after the weekend just to kind of give you that time before you had to, deal with our bad news. But here it is, and I wanted to just give it to you in email so you have the information, and if you want to talk about it, I would gladly make myself available to answer any questions you have, to talk more about it. I'm happy to provide that space, but just wanted to give you the bad news, quickly so you could, make sense of it and roll with the punch and figure out where you go from there. Really appreciate your time and look forward to connecting soon. Let me know when you have time to talk, that kind of thing. It's that line from Moneyball that Brad Pitt has. It's would you rather get, 10,000 cuts or just have your head cut off, kind of? Just give me the bad news in a burst, get it done, get it over with. But there's no nobility in rushing to tell me right now when I could have, a blissfully unaware weekend that this bad news is looming out there and is going to visit me on Monday, but I get to have, not that over my personal time. I think people just defend others' personal time, defend their mental wellness as they enjoy their personal time. If we spend a little bit more time thinking about that, it'd be a more human way to give someone bad news as opposed to this best practice that people adhere to, it seems like, that comes from old school business thinking. I don't know who's coming around giving out merit badges because you're such a professional that you like to look someone in the eye as you give them bad news, and you like to do it as soon as you have it, regardless of context. Like, that's the right thing to do, is to just deliver the bad news ASAP and stare at them while you give it to them. Like, I don't think anybody's coming around giving out merit badges for being that person. So whatever, you get out of that, whatever satisfaction's there, just, think about the person on the receiving end. The bad news on the agency side can be pretty profound at times. It could be bigger bad news than you perceive even when you're giving them the bad news. Treat it gently. Give someone the personal space they deserve if this bad news has a potential to encroach on their personal weekend time, their vacation time, whatever. Make it a priority to revisit this news when you get back in the office, because you're not going to lose track of it, because they're important to you and this news is important to you, and you will make space for it. And then you'll give them time to make their own peace with it via email without feeling like they're being scrutinized and their body, language is being evaluated, or they have to maintain their stiff upper lip and composure. Give them the space to deal with the bad news initially in their own way via email, and then also offer the opportunity to have a conversation about it and unpack it and provide more clarity if needed and be human and be available. I just think that is the more human way to do this. If you have bad news on a Monday, bad news on a Tuesday, bad news on a Wednesday, and there's not a holiday racing towards you or whatever, then give them the bad news. But I would still urge you to give the bad news via email first. Let them, perceive it and offer time to pick up where you leave off, rather than, have to stare them in the eyes as they wrestle with this bad news. My favorite good news of all time was kind of a fake out. I think everybody should embrace this. This was when I worked with Philly.com in my Happy Cog days years ago. The clients there and I had been retriangulating all through the sales process, all through the contracting process, all through the scope of work. They're doing rounds and rounds and rounds and rounds of revisions. And it felt like, it was really arduous. And I think I got an email from them saying, hey, we need to dig into the document one more time. We really appreciate your patience. We know this has been kind of a slog. But there's some stuff in here that we really, really do have to discuss and kind of scrutinize. Would you be available to meet for lunch to talk about this? And we'll kind of hash out the details. Hopefully we can get, where we need to be then, but please, bear with us. We just need to dig into this one last time. Fine. That was fine. Agreed. Let's have lunch. They wanted to meet the next day or whatever it was. And I go to have lunch with them. And one of the first things they say to me is, we have nothing else to discuss. We want to move forward. We just wanted to give you the good news in person. By the way, it's Ben's birthday, and he wanted to have churros. So we wanted to come here and take you out to lunch and celebrate the fact that we're going to dig into this, and we're so excited about it. And we appreciate what a slog it's been, but we're so excited about that is the best good news I've ever had delivered in client service. It was the best way to do it. It was really thoughtful about me. They were faking me out, trying to make me feel like there was one more pain in the ass thing we had to do, but then it was all this good news in person. They wanted to say it to me in person because they wanted to see how excited I was about it. They wanted me to see how excited they were about it. And we got churros. The amount of emotional intelligence and understanding of me and consideration of me that went into that was amazing. And you know what? They were fantastic partners. They are people I would drop everything to work with again at a moment's notice. Can't stress that enough. And that was just one of the hallmarks of that successful relationship that started then, that they understood what they needed to do. This was Eric Olkin and Ben Turktaloob and George Curtis. This was a wonderful team that I can't recommend enough, and everyone should jump at the chance to work with these fine folks. But that same, I guarantee you, if there was bad news headed my way, they would have applied the same amount of emotional intelligence, the same amount of context about knowing me, been just as thoughtful about delivering bad news. And they probably wouldn't have asked me to get on a Zoom so that they can watch my eye twitch briefly when they give me bad news as I'm about to leave the office on Friday at 5:30 and my family gets to deal with my work crankiness rather than work. Work should deal with work crankiness. Family should deal with family crankiness. Your family doesn't need a double helping of crankiness. So get the bad news on Monday. be cranky at the office on Monday, heartbroken at the office on Monday, dealing with it at the office on Monday, and just, for love of God, spare people their Fridays. This is just a public service message. This is, I see this enough. I tweet about it all the time. I feel like I post about this all the time. I'm beating a drum here, but every time I glance against this, it just raises my hackles, and I have to, shout about it for 10 minutes on a video. So forgive me for going off on a tear. Here endeth the lesson.